What if the most painful part of aging isn't the physical aches or memory lapses, but slowly losing the people around you without realizing why? It's not always about big mistakes. Sometimes, it's the tiny habits, the everyday ways we speak, act, and think that silently push loved ones away. And the most heartbreaking part, most seniors never see it coming until it's too late. But the good news is, you still have the power to turn it around. Have you ever noticed how certain habits, once harmless, become barriers as we age, barriers that isolate us and make life feel lonelier? It's not just about gray hair or slowing steps. Some behaviors creep in so subtly that we don't even realize they're driving people away. From small, repeated comments to unspoken attitudes, these invisible habits can slowly erode connection and joy. But once we spot them, once we truly understand them, we can begin to change. Take Julie, for example. At 71, this retired librarian had once been a beloved figure in her neighborhood. Her porch was always open for a chat, and her living room echoed with laughter and lively book discussions. People used to stop by just to hear her latest recommendation or share a story over tea. But lately, the silence had grown louder. Her phone rang less. The porch sat empty. Birthday cards were fewer. She told herself the people were just busy. But in quiet moments, she wondered, had she changed unintentionally? Julie had begun to drift. She started complaining more often about her arthritis, the changing world, or how things used to be better. She stopped dressing up, thinking, why bother? Who's even looking? Conversations shifted. She talked more but listened less. She dismissed new gadgets and ideas, saying they were silly or pointless. And when family offered help, she brushed it off with pride. These weren't terrible things, but added up, they created distance. And Julie's story isn't rare. In fact, it's all too common without realizing it. Many older adults fall into similar patterns, habits that, while seemingly innocent, slowly erode their closest bonds. But here's the light at the end of the tunnel. It's never too late to change. The first step is recognizing the behavior. The next is taking action. In this video, we're going to expose some of the most damaging habits that make aging harder than it needs to be. Habits no one talks about openly. And yes, number 7 often shocks people the most, because by the time they see it, the damage is already done. But stick with us, because once you know what to avoid, you will start building bridges again, not walls. Before we dive in, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us continue creating meaningful content that uplifts and empowers people just like you. Now, let's begin with number 1, becoming too negative or critical. Julie never thought of herself as a negative person. She believed she was simply being real, just telling it like it is. But slowly, negativity began to seep into her everyday conversations. She'd wake up with a sore knee and sigh. Another thing falling apart. The evening news left her irritated, and she'd voice her frustration loudly. When chatting with younger family members, she'd scoff at their opinions or chuckle dismissively, saying, "You wouldn't understand back in my day. We had respect." At first, she didn't see a problem, but gradually, the tone of conversation shifted. People grew quieter. Her friends stopped diving deep into personal stories. Her grandchildren, once eager to visit, started to drift away, citing homework or plans. What Julie didn't realize was that negativity, even when unintentional, is emotionally draining. No one wants to leave a conversation feeling worse than when they entered it. The truth is, it's incredibly easy to fall into a habit of criticism. As we age, challenges mount, the body aches, the world changes fast, sometimes too fast. It's natural to feel overwhelmed or out of step. But when complaints become the dominant language, they drown out warmth, curiosity, and connection. So how do you break this cycle? Start small. Lead conversations with gratitude or something uplifting. The garden looks beautiful today. Or I had the best cup of tea this morning. These simple phrases shift the tone and invite others in. Give yourself a 2-minute limit for venting. then steer towards something brighter. And perhaps most powerfully, replace judgment with curiosity. If your grandson loves a new game, or your neighbor's talking about a trend you don't understand, try asking, what do you like about it? That openness alone can rebuild 1,000 bridges. When Julie began leading with positivity, no matter how small, she noticed something remarkable. People lingered. They laughed. They shared again. Her grandchildren opened up, and friends started calling back. The warmth returned not overnight, but little by little. Now pause and reflect. Are your words building connection or creating distance? Let us know in the comments, what's one habit you've changed that made your relationship stronger? Up next, we'll explore another habit that's just as sneaky and often even more damaging, especially when you don't realize it's becoming your new norm. After shifting her mindset from criticism to curiosity, Julie began to reconnect with others, but that wasn't the only silent habit pulling her further into isolation. Number 2, ignoring personal hygiene and appearance. There was a time when Julie lit up every room she walked into. Her floral blouses turned heads. Her soft lavender perfume lingered gently in the air, and her carefully styled hair reflected the pride she took in presenting herself. But as the years rolled on, that sparkle began to fade. It didn't happen all at once. First, she skipped a few makeup days. Then, she stopped booking hair appointments and swapped her favorite outfits for oversized sweaters and stretchy pants, more for comfort than style. Eventually, she stopped bothering altogether. I'm not trying to impress anyone anymore, she'd tell herself. Days blurred together as she remained in the same clothes, barely glancing in the mirror. On the outside, she claimed it didn't matter, but deep down, she felt something had shifted. And the world noticed too. Strangers no longer offered compliments. Friends extended fewer invitations. Even the cashier at the local market stopped engaging in small talk. Julie would look back at old photographs and barely recognize the bright-eyed woman smiling back at her. What she didn't realize was this: the way we present ourselves influences not just how others perceive us, but how we perceive ourselves. Personal care isn't about vanity, it's about dignity. It's about saying, I still care about myself. I'm still here. So, how do you begin to reclaim that confidence? Start by getting dressed each day. Even if you're staying home, you don't need a 3-piece outfit, just clean, comfortable clothes that make you feel awake and ready. Reintroduce small rituals: brushing your hair, trimming your nails, moisturizing your skin. These aren't chores, they're gentle reminders that you matter. Bring color back into your wardrobe. A cheerful scarf or a shirt in your favorite hue can brighten more than your appearance. It can lift your spirit. And don't underestimate the power of one meaningful accessory: a favorite necklace, a dab of cologne, or a classic watch. These touches say, this is who I am. Julie eventually decided to put on her favorite red blouse one morning. Just because, she brushed her hair, added a dash of lipstick, and sprayed her old signature perfume. That day, she noticed something she hadn't felt in a long time: confidence. People smiled at her again. She stood a little taller. It wasn't about looking younger, it was about feeling alive. Your outward appearance is often a mirror of your inner world. When you take time to care for yourself, you radiate that care outward, and the world responds. So, what's one small thing you do each day that makes you feel your best? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your simple rituals. Number 3, becoming stubborn and resistant to change, of course. Looking your best is just one piece of the puzzle. Staying connected also means staying open. Julie had always been proud of her routines. She enjoyed the familiarity of doing things the way she always had. And when her children and grandchildren shifted to texting and video calls instead of phone conversations, she brushed it off. I don't need to learn all that nonsense. She'd say, if they really want to talk, they'll pick up the phone. But the calls grew fewer. The updates continued, but in family group chats, Julie refused to join. Funny stories, pictures, reminders they were all happening without her. Slowly, visibly, she was falling out of the loop. The danger of stubbornness is that it doesn't announce itself loudly. It creeps in, cloaked as I've always done it this way. But in time, It becomes a wall between you and the people who matter most. Change can be uncomfortable, especially when the world evolves faster than we can keep up. But refusing to adapt doesn't preserve connection, it breaks it. So how do you stay open to change, especially later in life? Try shifting your inner dialogue from "I don't need that" to "I'll give it a try." You don't have to master every app or gadget overnight. Start with one small step. Let someone younger walk you through it. Ask questions, laugh through the awkwardness together. You might be surprised by how much joy you find not just in learning something new, but in doing it together. Julie eventually let her granddaughter show her how to text. It felt silly at first, but then she saw what she had missed: photos of her great-grandchildren, they're building sandcastles, quick thinking of you messages, and funny little videos that sparked genuine laughter. What started as a hesitant favor turned into a gateway back into the lives of those she loved. Being open doesn't mean giving up who you are. It means being willing to grow, to stay present, to show the people in your life that you still care enough to meet them halfway. What's something new you've tried recently that helped you stay connected? Drop it in the comments. You never know who you might inspire. Up next, we'll uncover a habit that often disguises itself as independence, but in reality, can push help, love, and connection far out of reach. Even as Julie embraced change and reconnected through new technology, one obstacle still lingered quietly in the background: an emotional attachment to stuff that was harder to let go of than she thought. Number 4, hoarding and refusing to let go of clutter. Julie had always been someone who cherished memories. To her, every object in her home had meaning: an old postcard from a friend, a worn sweater from a long-forgotten trip, or stacks of newspapers she fully intended to read one day. Her closets were filled with clothes she hadn't touched in years, and her drawers brimmed with trinkets she swore she might need just in case. It all seemed harmless at first. After all, what's wrong with keeping a few keepsakes? But over time, her cozy little home began to feel less like a haven and more like a maze. Piles of things made cleaning difficult. Navigating rooms became tricky. Inviting friends over felt embarrassing. Still, when her daughter gently suggested clearing out a few things, Julie pushed back. "These are important." She'd say, "What if I need them later?" But the truth is, clutter doesn't just crowd your space, it clouds your peace of mind. Holding on too tightly to things from the past can anchor us in yesterday, keeping us from living fully today. And for many, the emotional weight of clutter is heavier than the physical piles. So how do you begin to reclaim clarity? Start small. Just one drawer, one shelf, one forgotten corner. You don't have to do it all in a day. In fact, trying to tackle everything at once can feel paralyzing. Instead, choose one small task and commit. Ask yourself honest questions. Do I really use this? Does this still bring me joy? If the answer is no, it's time to let it go. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. You can pass treasured items on to loved ones, donate to someone in need, or simply make space for what truly matters now. Turn decluttering into a habit, perhaps one item a day. Over time, that gentle, consistent action builds momentum and brings real change. And don't forget the practical side. A clutter-free home is safer, especially as we age. Fewer obstacles mean fewer chances for falls and injuries. When Julie finally took the plunge, she started small, just one shelf in her hallway closet. But something remarkable happened. As each bag left the house, she felt lighter. She rediscovered forgotten items she actually loved and found peace in organizing her space. For the first time in years, she welcomed her book club over again, and this time, with pride. Letting go of clutter isn't about losing your past. It's about making space for a calmer, simpler, more joyful present. What's one thing you've let go of recently that made a difference in your life? Share your story in the comments below. We'd love to hear how you're creating space to breathe. Number 5, losing patience with others too quickly. A clearer space often brings a clearer mind, but that doesn't mean emotions won't still bubble to the surface. And for Julie, impatience was the next habit she didn't see coming. She had always thought of herself as patient, but one afternoon in the grocery store, something shifted. A young cashier was slowly bagging her groceries, clearly flustered and unsure. Julie Tired and eager to get home, found herself muttering, "Can't you go a little faster?" Her voice was sharper than she expected, and the look on the boy's face embarrassed and withdrawn, stopped her cold. Then she noticed that his hands were shaking. He was nervous, probably new, and trying his best. And in that quiet moment, Julie saw something she didn't want to admit. She was becoming the person she never wanted to be: quick to snap, slow to show grace. As we age, impatience can sneak in unnoticed. Slower systems, forgetful clerks, noisy kids, they test our limits. But impatience doesn't just affect others, it also affects us. It raises stress levels, creates tension, and leaves behind a trail of regret. So how do we bring back kindness in those little moments? Start by pausing. When irritation creeps in, take a breath. Ask yourself, is this worth my peace? More often than not, it's not. Try shifting your perspective. The slow driver might be someone's grandfather. The distracted waiter might be juggling two jobs. Choosing empathy over judgment opens the door to better moments and healthier interactions. You can also make it a habit to replace reaction with encouragement. A simple, "Take your time," or "You're doing just fine," can transform someone's entire day, and you'll walk away feeling better. 2. Julie did just that on her next trip to the store. She saw the same young cashier and smiled warmly. "You're doing a great job," she said. His eyes lit up. And in that small exchange, something powerful happened. Human connection returned. A little patience doesn't cost anything, but its value is immeasurable. Next, we'll explore one of the most dangerous habits of all: the quiet refusal to accept help, even when it's offered with love. After rediscovering the power of patience and compassion, Julie began to repair strained interactions, but one more habit lingered beneath the surface, quietly chipping away at her most important relationships. Number 6, over-talking and not listening. Julie had always been a natural storyteller. Her life was a rich tapestry of experiences, funny moments, valuable lessons, and decades of wisdom. She loved sharing them, especially with her daughter. But lately, something had shifted. The phone calls grew shorter, the check-ins became less frequent, and when they did speak, her daughter seemed distant, eager to end the conversation early. One afternoon, Julie finally asked, "Is everything okay? You don't call as much these days." Her daughter hesitated before replying. "Mom, I love hearing from you. I really do. But sometimes it feels like I don't have a voice in our conversations. Like I'm just listening, not sharing." Julie was stunned. She had no idea that, in her eagerness to connect, she'd been unintentionally dominating their talks. She often jumped in with advice before her daughter could finish a sentence or redirected the subject to her own memories. Her heart sank not because she meant to do harm, but because she hadn't realized how often she was doing all the talking. It's an easy trap to fall into, especially as we grow older. We want to pass on our stories, our wisdom, our warnings. But in doing so, we can accidentally drown out the people we care about most. So, how do you strike the balance between sharing and truly connecting? Begin by pausing. If you've been talking for a while, stop and ask, "What about you? What's been going on in your world?" Give space for the other person to speak. Resist the urge to interrupt even when your own story is burning at the tip of your tongue. Let silence linger if needed. Ask thoughtful, open-ended questions like, "What made you smile this week?" or "What's been challenging for you lately?" These invite deeper, more meaningful conversations. And most importantly, be fully present. Turn off distractions. Put down the phone and truly listen, not just to the words, but to the feelings behind them. Julie took this to heart. The next time her daughter called, she leaned in quietly, gently. She listened with intention, asked follow-up questions, and waited until she was invited to share. The conversation flowed differently this time, warmer, calmer, and more balanced. Her daughter opened up. Their laughter returned. The distance faded. The most powerful conversations aren't the ones where we say everything. We remember the ones where we feel heard. Have you ever realized you were talking more than listening, or felt unheard by someone you love? Tell us in the comments. Let's reflect together. Number 7, pushing people away. Instead of asking for help after strengthening her bond through better listening, Julie faced another silent habit, one she thought was strength. But in reality, it was a wall she had built. Julie had always been fiercely independent. She raised a family, ran a household, and lent a hand to neighbors when they needed one. Asking for help, that was never her style. But as she aged, daily tasks became heavier literally and emotionally. One warm afternoon, she struggled to lift a bag of groceries from her car. A young man nearby paused and kindly offered, "Would you like a hand?" Julie forced a smile. "No, thank you, I've got it." But she didn't. She wrestled the bag inside, her back aching and her heart weighed down by something deeper, loneliness. That night, she sat quietly, reflecting on what had happened. Why had she said no? Pride, fear of appearing weak. Her refusal wasn't just about groceries, it was about letting someone in. And in that moment, she realized something profound. Pushing people away wasn't preserving her independence, it was feeding her isolation. We often mistake self-reliance for strength. But here's the truth, asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It's a bridge to connection. When we let others help us, we create shared moments of care, trust, and humanity. How do we begin to shift this mindset? Practice saying, "Yes, thank you." It's just 3 words, but they open the door to closeness. When you need assistance, ask with honesty, "Would you mind helping me with this?" More often than not, people are grateful for the opportunity to give. And think about it this way. How would you feel if no one ever needed your help again? You'd feel invisible, unneeded. By accepting support, you offer someone else the gift of feeling useful and valued. Julie got another chance. The next week, she saw the same young man again. This time, she smiled and said, "Actually, I could use a little help today." His face lit up. And in that small act of vulnerability, something opened between them. Kindness, connection, community. Being strong isn't about doing everything alone. It's about knowing when to lean in. Have you struggled with asking for help or felt the quiet joy of helping someone who needed it? Let us know in the comments. Number 8, being too frugal to enjoy life. As Julie learned to accept support with grace, she faced one more silent thief of joy, one that came disguised as responsibility. Julie had always been a saver. She clipped coupons religiously, skipped vacations, and thought long and hard before spending on anything not deemed essential. Even with a healthy savings account, she worried, what if I need it later? What if something unexpected happens? So when her longtime friend Linda invited her on a weekend countryside getaway, Julie hesitated. A nice inn, meals out, leisure spending. It all felt unnecessary, frivolous, even. But later that evening, a quiet question echoed in her mind. When was the last time I treated myself not for survival, but for joy? She had spent decades saving for someday. But what if that day was now? There's no denying the importance of financial responsibility. But money, at its core, is a tool, a resource meant to support a fulfilling life. Not restricted. You worked hard to earn it. Isn't it time it gave something back? Research shows that spending on experiences, not things, brings the most happiness. A shared meal, a weekend away, painting class can create memories that outlast any material possession. Joy doesn't need to be expensive. It just needs to be intentional. So how do you allow yourself to live a little? Create a fun fund, even a small one. Set aside money specifically for experiences that light you up. Say yes to opportunities that nourish your spirit. And when guilt tries to creep in, ask yourself, if not now. When Julie said yes to the trip, she and Linda laughed, wandered through flower-filled fields, shared stories over coffee, and watched the sun melt into the hills. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't worrying, she was living. And in that moment, she realized what she had been saving for all along. What's one joyful experience you've been putting off because of money? Share it below. We'd love to hear what living looks like for you. Up next, we'll uncover the final hidden habit, one that seems small, but can quietly shut the world out completely. Even after embracing joy and learning to enjoy the rewards of a life well lived, Julie realized one final, quiet habit had been driving an invisible wedge between her and those she loved most. Number 9, talking down to younger generations. Julie absolutely adored her grandson Ethan. His visits used to be a highlight of her week, full of stories, laughter, and a special bond that made her heart feel full. But recently, things felt different. Ethan still came by, but the visits were shorter. The conversations were more strained. Something had changed, and she couldn't quite put her finger on it. One afternoon, Ethan mentioned a new app he was excited about, describing how it let him connect with friends from all over the world. Julie listened for a moment, then sighed and shook her head. Back in my day, we didn't need all that nonsense. Kids actually went outside and played instead of staring at screens all day. The room went quiet. Ethan nodded politely, then glanced at his phone. I should probably get going, he mumbled. Heading for the door, Julie sat alone afterward, staring at the space he'd left behind. She didn't mean to push him away. She only wanted to share how different things were in her time, how simple and meaningful life once seemed. But had she made him feel small, like his world didn't matter? It's an easy mistake to make. Comparing the past to the present can feel harmless, even nostalgic. But repeated remarks that suggest things were better back then can make younger people feel dismissed, unappreciated, and misunderstood. It shifts the conversation from connection to criticism without us even realizing it. So how can we shift this dynamic? Start with curiosity. Instead of brushing off their interests, lean in. When someone younger shares something they're passionate about, be it a game, a trend, or a new idea, ask, what do you enjoy about it? You don't have to understand every detail to show genuine interest. Share your stories too, but not to compete. To relate, find bridges between your experiences and theirs. Julie gave it another shot the next time Ethan visited. When he mentioned his favorite online game, instead of dismissing it, she smiled and said, sounds interesting. What do you like most about it? His eyes lit up. He launched into an explanation about strategy, teamwork, and creativity. Julie didn't grasp all the terms, but it didn't matter. He felt heard, and that made all the difference. Connection between generations isn't about agreeing on everything. It's about mutual respect, openness, and a willingness to see the world through each other's eyes. Have you ever struggled to connect with someone from a different generation? What helped bridge that gap? Let's talk in the comments below. Number 10. Holding on to grudges and regrets. Later that evening, as the house grew quiet, Julie sat by the window watching the autumn leaves drift down like whispers from the past. Another holiday season was approaching, but instead of warmth, a familiar heaviness settled over her chest. She thought about the friend who had betrayed her, the sister she hadn't spoken to in years, and the words she wished she had said but never did. The memories played like an old movie in her mind, one she couldn't pause or fast forward. Just then, her neighbor Linda walked by, noticed the distant look in Julie's eyes, and gently asked, "What's on your mind?" Julie let out a long sigh. "I keep thinking about things I can't change." Linda sat beside her and smiled softly. Holding on to the past is like carrying a heavy suitcase everywhere you go. It's exhausting. Imagine how free you'd feel if you just let it down. Grudges and regrets have a way of stealing our present. They color the moments we're in, shadow our relationships, and quietly drain our joy. They can even take a toll on our physical health, raising stress levels, disturbing sleep, and weakening the immune system over time. So how do we begin to let go? First, accept what can't be changed. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" shift to, "What can I learn from this?" Then practice forgiveness, not for the sake of those who hurt you, but for your own peace. Forgiveness is not about excusing wrongs. It's about freeing yourself from their grip. Julie decided to take action. That night, she sat down with a blank sheet of paper and wrote it all out: the disappointments, the regrets, the pain. Then, with a quiet determination, she tore the paper into pieces and tossed it away. As the scraps fell to the floor, something inside her lifted. For the first time in years, She felt light. Letting go doesn't erase the past. It simply makes room for peace in the present. Have you ever released a past hurt or regret? What helped you find your way forward? Let's share and support each other in the comments. Number 11, ignoring health problems until it's too late. As Julie started letting go of emotional burdens, she began paying closer attention to her body, though. In truth, she had ignored its whispers for far too long. She'd been feeling dizzy for weeks, especially when standing up quickly but brushed it off. "I'm just getting older," she told herself. Her vision had grown blurrier. Her energy wasn't the same, but still, she downplayed it all. Then one morning, reaching for a mug in the kitchen, the dizziness struck hard. She lost her balance. Her hips slammed into the floor. Pain shot through her body. Panic set in. Hours later, at the hospital, the doctor shook his head and said gently, "Julie, this could have been prevented." It was a sobering wake-up call. So many older adults, like Julie, ignore early symptoms assuming they're just signs of aging, but small signals can point to serious issues. Dizziness might indicate dehydration, a heart issue, or even an early warning of stroke. Fatigue, memory slips, or weight loss might not be just getting older, they might be something more. How can we avoid waiting until it's too late? First, listen to your body. If something feels off, pay attention. Schedule regular checkups even when you feel fine. These visits often catch issues before they become serious. Don't minimize sudden changes. If you notice chest pain, vision loss, confusion, or unexplained fatigue, act quickly. Julie learned this the hard way. After her fall, she made a promise to herself. She booked a full checkup. She started drinking more water, eating better, and even joined a community balance class. She discovered that being independent doesn't mean ignoring help. It means being smart about prevention. Have you ever brushed off a symptom that turned out to be more serious? What helped you start prioritizing your health? Share your experience. It might help someone else take action. Number 12, forgetting to invite laughter and joy. In the weeks that followed, Julie's recovery went well, but her days still felt quiet, predictable, empty. Then one evening, Linda invited her over for movie night. "We're watching a classic comedy," she said. "You're not allowed to say no." Julie smiled and gave in. They watched an old film filled with silly moments and heartfelt laughs. Somewhere in the middle of it all, Julie found herself laughing, really laughing, the kind that bubbles up from the belly and brings tears to your eyes. For the first time in a long while, she felt alive. Joy isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. Laughter reduces stress, it lowers cortisol, boosts mood, and strengthens your immune system. It helps deepen relationships and lifts emotional fog. And more than anything, it reminds you that life is still worth enjoying. So how do you bring more joy into your life? Start small. Watch something funny. Listen to music you love. Dance in your kitchen. Make time for people who bring out your smile. Most importantly, don't take everything so seriously. Life isn't perfect, but it's still beautiful, especially when you let yourself laugh again. Julie left Linda's that night feeling lighter than she had in years. The next morning, instead of turning on the news, she played her favorite song and twirled around the kitchen with a coffee mug in hand. She chose joy, and it made all the difference. When was the last time you laughed until your stomach hurt? Let's share that joy in the comments below. In the end, Julie discovered something powerful. Aging doesn't have to mean fading. It can mean blooming. Stay tuned. We'll wrap up this journey with a powerful reminder that growing older can be the start of something beautiful.